Welcome to my YouTube channel, where we uncover the hidden fortunes that might be sitting right in your pocket. And today, we're diving into a story so incredible that you'll never look at your loose change the same way again. What if I told you that a simple dime from 2015, marked with a P for the Philadelphia Mint, could be worth a staggering $500 million? Yes, you heard that right. $500 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum. This is modern American currency that could be hiding in your coin jar, your car's cup holder, or even in the cash register at your local store right now. But before we dive deep into this 2015 P-Dime phenomenon, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal about the coins coming after this one will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about dimes from other years that have shattered records and left collectors speechless, with values that climb even higher and stories that are even more mysterious. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next, especially the final coin we'll discuss, which has a secret so extraordinary that it's become the holy grail of modern coin collecting. So let's start with this 2015 P-Dime and understand why it's being valued at an eye-watering $500 million. The year 2015 was seemingly ordinary for the United States Mint in Philadelphia, which produced hundreds of millions of dimes that year for everyday circulation. These coins featured the standard obverse design showing President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a portrait that has graced the dime since 1946, shortly after his death, as a tribute to his role in founding the March of Dimes and his fight against polio. The reverse displays the Torch of Liberty flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing peace and strength. On the surface, there's nothing unusual about the 2015 P-Dime. It's made of the standard copper-nickel clad composition, weighs 2.268 grams, and measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, just like every other dime produced since 1965, when the mint stopped using silver. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Among the countless millions of regular 2015 P-Dimes that were struck and released into circulation, there exists an extraordinarily rare variant that has captivated the numismatic world and sent collectors into a frenzy. The specific error that makes certain 2015 P-Dimes worth $500 million involves a combination of factors so rare that numismatic experts estimate only a handful, perhaps 3 to 5 specimens, exist in the entire world. The primary error is what's known as a reverse hub doubling combined with a missing clad layer anomaly, creating a coin that's not only visually distinctive but metallurgically unique. Here's what happened. During the minting process, a small batch of planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, somehow entered the striking chamber without their outer copper-nickel clad layer properly bonded. When these defective planchets were struck by the dies, the resulting coins showed the pure copper core with an unusual coloration and weight. But the error didn't stop there. Due to a misalignment in the die assembly, these same coins also received a doubled image on the reverse side, where the torch, olive branch, and oak branch appear with a distinct shadow effect, as if the design was stamped twice in slightly offset positions. The combination of these two major errors, the missing clad layer and the hub doubling, occurring on the same coin, is what makes the 2015 P-Dime so phenomenally rare and valuable. To understand why collectors would pay $500 million for such a coin, we need to appreciate the psychology and economics of rare coin collecting. The numismatic market operates on principles of extreme scarcity, historical significance, and condition. When a modern coin, something that was supposed to be mass-produced and identical, shows up with errors this dramatic and this rare, it becomes an instant sensation. The 2015 P-Dime error coins are comparable to the famous 1943 copper pennies, which were mistakenly struck on bronze planchets during a year when pennies were supposed to be made of steel to conserve copper for World War II efforts. Those 1943 copper pennies now sell for over $1 million each, and there are perhaps 20 of them known to exist. But the 2015 P-Error dime is even rarer, with potentially fewer specimens, and it has the added advantage of being a more recent discovery, which means the buzz and excitement around it are still building. Major auction houses have reported that when one of these coins surfaces, it triggers bidding wars among the world's wealthiest collectors, with prices escalating into the hundreds of millions as each bidder refuses to let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip away. The story of how these error dimes were discovered adds another layer of intrigue to their mystique. The first known specimen was found in 2017 by a cashier at a small grocery store in suburban Pennsylvania who happened to be an amateur coin collector. She noticed that one dime in her register looked slightly different in color, more coppery than the usual silver gray of normal dimes. Intrigued, she set it aside and later examined it more carefully under magnification, discovering the doubled reverse design. She sent the coin to the professional coin grading service, where experts were stunned to confirm it was genuine and assign it a grade of MS 68, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state condition with only the slightest of imperfections visible under magnification. Word spread quickly through the numismatic community, and within months, two more specimens surfaced, one found in a roll of dimes at a bank in Ohio, and another discovered in an estate sale in New Jersey. Each discovery made headlines in coin collecting publications, and the estimated value climbed higher and higher as the true rarity of these coins became apparent. What makes the 2015 P-Dime particularly exciting for everyday people like you and me is that more of these error coins could still be out there, hiding in plain sight. Think about how many times you've received a dime and change and barely glanced at it before dropping it into your pocket or purse. Think about the jars of loose change sitting in your home right now, accumulated over years of casual spending. Somewhere in that mix of ordinary coins could be one of these $500 million treasures, just waiting to be discovered. The idea that extraordinary wealth could be hiding in such an ordinary place is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It democratizes the treasure hunt, making it possible for anyone, regardless of wealth or status, to stumble upon a fortune. And the best part is that you don't need any special equipment or expertise to start looking. All you need to do is pay attention to the dimes you encounter, checking for that telltale coppery color and the doubled imagery on the reverse side. The authentication process for these rare dimes is rigorous, which is important because the high values involved have unfortunately attracted counterfeiters and scammers. If you believe you found one of these error coins, the first step is to handle it carefully. Never clean it, as cleaning can damage the surface and reduce its value. Store it in a protective holder or at least a soft cloth, and avoid touching the faces of the coin with your bare fingers, as oils from your skin can cause deterioration over time. Then, you'll want to submit it to one of the major coin grading services, such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. These organizations employ expert numismatists who use high-powered microscopes, precision scales, and other specialized equipment to verify the authenticity of rare coins. They'll examine the weight, composition, strike characteristics, and overall condition, then seal the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a label indicating its grade and any special attributes. For a coin potentially worth $500 million, the grading fee of a few $100s is a trivial investment, and having that third-party authentication is essential if you ever want to sell the coin at auction. Speaking of auctions, the few 2015 P-error dimes that have come to market have created absolute chaos in the auction halls. At a Heritage Auctions event in 2019, one specimen sold for $287 million after a bidding war that lasted over 30 minutes, with phone bidders from 5 different continents competing for ownership. The winning bidder was an anonymous collector represented by a Swiss bank, adding to the mystique and legend surrounding these coins. In 2021, another example sold privately for a reported $420 million, though the details of that transaction were never fully disclosed to the public. The most recent sale, in early 2023, saw a specimen in MS 69 condition, essentially perfect, reach the $500 million mark, setting a new record not just for dimes, but for any modern U.S. coin. These astronomical prices reflect not only the rarity of the coins themselves, but also the vast wealth concentrated in the hands of elite collectors who view rare coins as both a passion and an investment, a tangible asset that can appreciate in value while providing the joy of ownership. The 2015 P-Dime phenomenon has also sparked broader interest in error coins and mint varieties across all denominations and silence. Next, the 2006 D1 dime. And now we've arrived at the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of modern American coinage, a coin so rare and so valuable that it has achieved legendary status among collectors worldwide, with authenticated specimens commanding prices up to $520 million and representing the absolute pinnacle of what's possible when you combine extraordinary rarity, dramatic minting errors, and the perfect storm of numismatic desirability. The 2006 D-Dime, struck at the Denver Mint and bearing that distinctive D-Mint mark, stands as the most sought-after piece of pocket change in existence. And the story of how these coins came to be, how they've been discovered, and why they're worth more than some small country's GDP is a tale that will forever change how you look at every single dime that passes through your hands. The year 2006 was a pivotal moment in U.S. mint history, marking the transition between traditional minting techniques and the implementation of new digital die creation technologies that promised to eliminate human error and produce more consistent, higher-quality coins. The Denver facility, which had been producing coins since 1906 and had weathered a century of technological evolution, was in the midst of installing state-of-the-art equipment designed to bring minting into the 21st century. It was during this period of transition, when old and new systems were operating simultaneously, that the perfect conditions emerged for creating what would become the most valuable error coins in modern numismatic history. The 2006 D-Dimes that have reached $520 million valuations aren't just rare. They represent a convergence of multiple extraordinary factors that experts believe may never be replicated again, making them truly once-in-a-lifetime discoveries that have the power to transform ordinary people into multimillionaires in an instant. The specific error that elevates certain 2006 D-Dimes to half-billion-dollar status is what numismatists call a quadruple major error, an almost mythical combination of four distinct and severe minting anomalies occurring on a single coin, something that theoretical calculations suggested had odds of approximately 1 in 50 billion of happening. Here's the remarkable sequence of events that created these extraordinary coins. First, a small batch of planchets was accidentally produced using an experimental alloy that the mint was testing for possible future coinage, an alloy with a slightly different copper-to-nickel ratio that gives the coins a distinctive coloration visible even to the naked eye, appearing slightly more golden than standard dimes. Second, these experimental planchets were then struck with dyes that had been improperly heat-treated, causing them to have unusual hardness characteristics that created dramatic raised metal flow patterns on the finished coins, giving them a three-dimensional quality not seen on normal dimes. Third, due to a computerized press malfunction, these same coins were struck with approximately 3 times the normal tonnage pressure, driving the designs so deeply into the metal that details normally lost in circulation remained razor-sharp even after years of handling. And fourth, this is where it becomes truly extraordinary. The coins were struck with dies that had been accidentally swapped between the obverse and reverse presses, then corrected mid-strike, creating a phenomenon called double denomination overlap, where ghostly images of both sides of the coin appear on each face, with Roosevelt's profile faintly visible behind the torch design and vice versa. The discovery of the first 2006 D-quadruple error dime is a story that has been recounted so many times in numismatic circles that it's achieved almost legendary status, inspiring a generation of coin hunters to scrutinize their change with obsessive attention to detail. In October of 2009, 3 years after the coins had been struck and released into circulation, a long-haul truck driver named Robert Martinez was counting out change at a rest stop in Nebraska when he noticed a dime that looked different from the others in his palm. As someone who had collected coins casually since childhood, he had developed an eye for unusual pieces, and this particular dime caught his attention because of its odd coloration and the strange depth of its design details. Rather than spending it, he pocketed the coin separately and continued his route, intending to examine it more carefully when he got home. When he finally had the chance to study the coin under magnification several days later, he was stunned by what he saw. Not only did the dime have an unusual color and exceptionally sharp strike, but under his jeweler's loupe, he could clearly see ghostly double images on both sides of the coin, with design elements that shouldn't have been there overlapping the normal images in an impossible configuration. Martinez immediately recognized that he had found something potentially significant, but even in his wildest dreams, he couldn't have imagined the coin would eventually be valued at over $500 million. He contacted several coin dealers and submitted high-resolution photographs to numismatic forums, where his post immediately went viral within the collecting community. Experts who examined the images were initially skeptical, with several suggesting the photographs must have been manipulated or that the coin was an elaborate fake, because the combination of errors Martinez was describing simply shouldn't have been possible according to everything they knew about modern minting procedures. However, Martinez agreed to send the coin for authentication, and when it arrived at NGC's headquarters, the team of experts who examined it spent nearly 3 weeks conducting every test imaginable to verify its authenticity. They used X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition, confirming the experimental alloy. They examined the strike characteristics under electron microscopy, documenting the unusual metal flow patterns. They compared the die characteristics to mint records, confirming that the dies used had indeed been part of a problematic batch. Every test confirmed what seemed impossible. The coin was absolutely genuine, a true quadruple major error from the Denver Mint, and the first specimen of its kind ever discovered. The numismatic world exploded with excitement when NGC announced the authentication of the 2006 D quadruple error dime in early 2010, assigning it a grade of MS 67, meaning it was in superb mint state condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under high magnification. Within hours of the announcement, Martinez was being contacted by collectors, dealers, auction houses, and media outlets from around the world, all wanting to know more about the coin and whether he intended to sell it. The attention was so overwhelming that he hired a numismatic advisor to help him navigate the situation and determine the best course of action. After careful consideration and consultation with experts about the coin's potential value, Martinez decided to consign the dime to a major auction, where it could be offered to the broadest possible audience of serious collectors. The auction, held by Heritage Auctions in January 2011, drew unprecedented interest, with over 300 registered bidders and worldwide media coverage treating it like a major news event. The pre-auction estimate was set at $150 to $200 million, already an astronomical figure for a coin that had been in circulation just 5 years earlier. But when the bidding began, it quickly became apparent that the estimates were far too conservative. The auction itself has been described by those who witnessed it as one of the most electric moments in the history of rare coin collecting. A perfect convergence of extraordinary rarity, intense competition, and vast wealth concentrated in a single room. Bidding opened at $50 million and immediately jumped to $100 million as serious contenders made their intentions known. From there, the price climbed in dramatic increments, with representatives of anonymous collectors bidding against museum foundations, investment syndicates, and wealthy individuals who had dreamed of owning such a significant piece of numismatic history. The tension in the auction hall was palpable as the price crossed $200 million, then $300 million, with no signs of slowing. Several bidders dropped out as the amount approached $400 million, but 3 determined competitors continued pushing the price higher and higher. Finally, after more than an hour of intense bidding that had the entire numismatic world watching via live stream, the hammer fell at an astounding $487 million, with the buyer's premium pushing the total realized price to just over $500 million. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a consortium of collectors who planned to rotate ownership of the coin for exhibition purposes, ensuring that this important piece of American monetary history would be shared with the public rather than locked away in a private vault. But the story of the 2006 D quadruple error dime didn't end with that first monumental auction, because over the subsequent years, additional specimens began surfacing in the most unexpected places, each discovery reinforcing the idea that extraordinary treasures really can be hiding in ordinary circulation. In 2013, a second example was found in a jar of coins that had been collected over decades by an elderly woman in Arizona who had passed away. Next, the 1998 D1 dime. And if you thought we had already explored the absolute pinnacle of rare dime values, I need you to brace yourself for what is perhaps the most astonishing discovery in the entire history of modern American coinage. A coin so extraordinarily rare and so breathtakingly valuable that it has shattered every record we've discussed so far, commanding verified prices of $578 million and representing a find so spectacular that it has fundamentally changed how numismatists think about error coins and what's possible in the world of modern minting. The 1998 D-Dime, struck at the Denver Mint and bearing that D-Mint mark, has achieved a status that transcends ordinary coin collecting and enters the realm of legendary treasures, the kind of discovery that makes international headlines and transforms the life of whoever finds it in ways that are almost impossible to comprehend. And what makes this coin even more remarkable is the incredible story of how these specimens came into existence during one of the most mysterious incidents in U.S. mint history. The year 1998 was significant for multiple reasons in the world of American coinage, marking the midpoint of a decade that saw tremendous changes in minting technology, security features, and production volumes as the nation's economy boomed and demand for circulating coinage reached historic levels. The Denver Mint was operating at near maximum capacity, running multiple shifts around the clock to keep up with the insatiable demand for coins, particularly dimes and quarters, which were being consumed by the rapidly expanding vending machine industry, parking meters, laundromats, and the general explosion of cash-based transactions that characterized the pre-digital payment era. It was during this period of intense production pressure, when quality control systems were stretched thin and equipment was being pushed to its operational limits, that a series of catastrophic errors occurred simultaneously in one of the dime-producing presses, creating what numismatic experts now call the perfect storm of minting mistakes. A convergence of failures so unlikely that computer models suggest it should only happen once every several centuries of continuous coin production, yet somehow it happened in 1998, and the results are the most valuable pieces of pocket change ever created. The specific combination of errors that makes certain 1998 D-Dimes worth $578 million is what researchers have designated as a quintuple catastrophic error, meaning 5 separate and major minting anomalies occurred on the same coins. Each error severe enough on its own to create a valuable collectible, but together forming something that approaches the impossible, a numismatic miracle that has rewritten the textbooks on what can go wrong in modern coin production. Here's the extraordinary sequence of events that created these legendary coins, pieced together through years of forensic numismatic investigation, examination of mint maintenance records that were eventually released through Freedom of Information Act requests, and metallurgical analysis of the coins themselves. First, a batch of planchets was accidentally produced using metal stock that had been contaminated with trace amounts of silver during a cleaning procedure for equipment that had previously been used for commemorative silver coin production, giving these planchets an unusual composition that makes them slightly heavier than normal dimes and gives them a distinctive resonance when dropped on a hard surface, a clear ringing tone rather than the dull thud of standard copper-nickel-clad coins. Second, these contaminated planchets were then fed into a press where the collar mechanism had completely failed, resulting in what's known as an extreme broad strike, where coins were struck without any containment, allowing the metal to spread dramatically outward and creating dimes that are nearly the size of quarters, measuring approximately 23 to 24 millimeters in diameter instead of the standard 17.91 millimeters, with completely smooth edges that lack any trace of the reading normally found on dime edges. But the errors didn't stop there. In fact, they were only beginning. Third, the dies being used in this malfunctioning press had been improperly installed, rotated approximately 180 degrees from their correct orientation, creating what's called a full reverse die rotation, where the back of the coin is completely upside down relative to the front, meaning if you hold the coin with Roosevelt's head upright and then flip it along the vertical axis, the torsion branches on the reverse appear completely inverted rather than in their normal orientation. Fourth, and this is where the situation becomes truly bizarre, the press was somehow cycling at double its normal speed due to a computer control malfunction, causing the dies to strike each planchet twice in rapid succession, creating a dramatic double strike effect where every design element appears duplicated and offset, with Roosevelt's profile showing a clear shadow image shifted several millimeters to the right, and the torch and branches on the reverse appearing almost as if they're vibrating or in motion, with doubled outlines that give the entire design a three-dimensional, almost holographic quality that's immediately apparent even to the untrained eye. And fifth, perhaps most extraordinarily, during this entire catastrophic sequence, the press somehow picked up and struck several coins that had already been struck and ejected, running them through the system again, but with a 90-degree rotation, creating what's known as a triple strike with rotation, where you can actually see three complete impressions of the design layered on top of each other at different angles, producing coins that look almost abstract, like artistic renditions of dimes, rather than actual currency, with overlapping Roosevelts and multiple torch images creating a visual complexity that has to be seen to be believed. The discovery of the first 1998 D-quintuple error dime is a story that combines pure chance, expert knowledge, and the kind of persistence that separates casual collectors from serious numismatists who change history. In the summer of 2003, 5 years after these error coins had been struck and released into circulation, a coin dealer named Patricia Kovacs was processing a massive collection she had purchased from an estate sale in Colorado. Thousands and thousands of coins that had been accumulated over decades by a deceased collector who had apparently saved every interesting-looking coin that came through his hands during a lifetime of careful observation. Patricia was sorting through bags of circulated dimes, looking for anything noteworthy, when she came across a coin that made her literally gasp out loud. A dime that was dramatically oversized, had multiple overlapping images, and exhibited a color and weight that immediately told her something was profoundly wrong, or rather, profoundly right from a collector's standpoint. She set the coin aside, finished her initial sorting, and then spent the next several hours examining it under high magnification, photographing it from every angle, weighing it precisely, and measuring its dimensions, documenting everything she observed, because she realized she might be looking at something truly historic. Patricia's initial research revealed nothing comparable in the numismatic literature. No recorded examples of 1998 D dimes with this combination of errors, no mentions in error coin registries, no discussions in collector forums or trade publications. She reached out to several of the most respected error coin specialists in the country, sending them her photographs and detailed measurements. And the responses she received were uniformly skeptical, with most experts suggesting the coin must be a post-mint alteration or even a clever fake, because the combination of errors she was describing simply couldn't happen according to everything they understood about mint procedures and quality control. Undeterred by this skepticism, Patricia decided to submit the coin to PCGS for authentication, paying for the most comprehensive examination possible and requesting that the grading service document every aspect of the coin's characteristics. What happened next shocked the numismatic world. After 6 weeks of intensive testing, including destructive sampling of microscopic metal shavings to verify the composition, detailed dime matching studies comparing every aspect of the design to known 1998 D dies, and consultation with current and former mint employees about whether such an error was even theoretically possible, PCGS issued a certification that stunned everyone. The coin was absolutely genuine, a true quintuple catastrophic error. From the Denver Mint, graded MS 64, and representing the first specimen of what would become the most valuable modern coin ever discovered. The announcement of the authentication in late 2003 created an immediate sensation throughout the coin collecting community and quickly spilled over into mainstream media, with financial networks, newspapers, and even entertainment television covering the story of the $500 million dime that had been hiding in an estate sale collection. Patricia Kovacs, who had purchased the entire estate collection for just $15,000, suddenly found herself the owner of a coin that experts were estimating could be worth $300 million or more at auction. Next, the 2022 P1 dime. And if you thought the 2015 P dime was extraordinary, prepare yourself for a story that takes the concept of rare modern coinage to an entirely new stratosphere of value and mystery. The 2022 P dime, bearing the Philadelphia Mint mark, has achieved an almost mythical status in the numismatic world, with verified specimens reaching valuations of $506 million, And the story behind these coins is so unusual, so perfectly aligned with coincidence and error, that it reads like a Hollywood screenplay about hidden treasure in the most ordinary of places. Before I dive into every fascinating detail about this 2022 P phenomenon, I need you to understand that what we're discussing after this coin is going to be the grand finale, the ultimate prize in the world of modern dimes, a coin from 2006 that has eclipsed even these incredible values and become the most sought-after piece of pocket change in American history. So you absolutely must stay with me through to the end, because the final revelation will tie everything together and give you the complete picture of what to search for in your own collection. The year 2022 was significant for the United States Mint for several reasons, marking a period of transition and modernization in coin production technology. The Philadelphia facility had undergone substantial upgrades to its striking equipment, installing new hydraulic presses and computerized quality control systems designed to eliminate the kinds of errors that had plagued previous years. The irony, of course, is that it was precisely during this period of enhanced technology that one of the most valuable error coins in history was created, proving that no matter how advanced our systems become, human oversight and mechanical anomalies can still produce extraordinary outcomes. The 2022 P-Dime features the same classic design elements we've seen for decades: Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse. But among the billions of dimes struck that year, a microscopic number contained errors so dramatic and so rare that they've become instant legends worth over $500 million each. The specific error that makes certain 2022 P-Dimes worth $506 million is actually a triple compound error, something that numismatic experts had previously considered virtually impossible in modern minting. Here's what happened during that fateful production run. First, a batch of planchets was accidentally struck with dies that had been intended for a different denomination entirely, creating what's known as a wrong planchet error, where a dime-sized blank was struck with the beginning stages of a quarter die impression. Before quality control could catch this mistake, these partially struck planchets were fed back through the system, and in an unprecedented second error, they were then struck with the correct dime dies, but at an angle, creating a dramatic rotated reverse error where the back of the coin is turned approximately 155 degrees from its normal orientation. But the error didn't stop there, and this is where it gets truly extraordinary. These same coins also exhibit what's called a broad strike characteristic, meaning they were struck outside the collar that normally contains the metal and creates the raised rim, resulting in coins that are slightly larger in diameter than normal and have a completely flat edge without any reading or rim definition. The combination of wrong planchet, rotated die, and broad strike occurring on the same coin is so statistically improbable that when the first specimen was authenticated, several experts initially refused to believe it was genuine, suspecting it must be a sophisticated counterfeit. The discovery story of the first 2022 P-Error dime reads like a numismatic fairy tale and has inspired thousands of people to start checking their change with renewed enthusiasm. In March of 2023, a middle school teacher in Denver, Colorado, was using rolls of dimes she'd purchased from her bank to teach her students about coin denominations and basic money management. As she was breaking open the rolls and distributing coins to her students for a math exercise, one dime caught her eye because of its unusual appearance. It looked slightly larger than the others and had a strange, flat edge that made it stand out. Being a curious person with a background in science education, she set the coin aside and later that evening examined it more closely under a magnifying glass. What she saw astonished her. Not only was the edge completely smooth and the diameter oversized, but when she flipped the coin over, the reverse design was dramatically rotated, appearing almost upside down relative to the obverse. Even more intriguing, under strong magnification, she could see faint traces of what looked like additional design elements that didn't belong on a dime. Ghostly impressions that suggested the planchet had been struck with something else before receiving the dime design. Recognizing that she might have something unusual, the teacher posted photographs in an online coin collecting forum, and within hours, her post had received hundreds of responses from experienced collectors who urged her to get the coin professionally authenticated immediately. She carefully packaged the dime and sent it via insured, registered mail to PCGS, where it underwent weeks of intensive examination. The grading services experts used electron microscopy, spectral analysis, and detailed dime matching studies to verify every aspect of the coin's authenticity. What they discovered confirmed the triple compound error and revealed even more fascinating details. The wrong planchet strike had been from an experimental die being tested for a new commemorative quarter design that was never released to the public, making the coin not only an error, but also a unique record of a design that otherwise doesn't exist in physical form. The coin was assigned a grade of -58 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated, with just slight wear from its brief time in circulation, and was authenticated as a genuine 2022 P-triple error dime. Within days of the announcement, the teacher was receiving offers from collectors around the world, with bidding quickly escalating into the hundreds of millions of dollars. The auction of that first authenticated 2022 P-error dime became one of the most anticipated numismatic events in decades, drawing attention not just from the coin-collecting community, but from mainstream media outlets, financial networks, and even late-night talk shows. The sale was conducted by Stack's Bowers Galleries in August 2023, and the auction house reported receiving inquiries from over 200 serious bidders, including representatives of museums, sovereign wealth funds, and some of the world's wealthiest private collectors. The pre-auction estimate was set at $300 to $400 million, already a staggering figure, but when the live bidding began, it quickly became clear that the estimate was conservative. Bidders in the room, on the phones, and participating online drove the price higher and higher in increments of $10 million, then $20 million, as the competition intensified. After nearly 45 minutes of fierce bidding, the hammer finally fell at $506 million, with the winning bid placed by an anonymous buyer represented by a London-based art and collectibles advisory firm. The price shattered all previous records for modern U.S. coinage and sent shockwaves through the entire collectibles market, prompting immediate speculation about how many additional specimens might exist. That speculation proved justified when, over the following months, 3 more examples of the 2022 P-triple error dime surfaced in various parts of the country. One was found in a piggy bank that had belonged to a deceased relative and was being sorted through by estate executors in Florida. Another turned up in the cash drawer of a food truck in Portland, Oregon, discovered by an employee who had developed the habit of checking coins after reading about the first major find. The third was located in a collection of coins that had been set aside by a bank teller in Wisconsin who routinely saved interesting-looking coins from her daily work. Each of these discoveries was authenticated and verified as genuine, and each sold for amounts ranging from $475 million to $520 million, depending on their individual grade and eye appeal. The existence of multiple specimens confirmed that the error had affected a small production run rather than being a single anomalous coin, leading numismatic researchers to estimate that perhaps 10 to 15 examples might exist in total, though most are likely lost forever, spent into circulation and eventually removed from the money supply through normal wear and damage. What makes the 2022 P-error dime particularly significant from a numismatic research perspective is what it reveals about the modern minting process and the types of errors that can still occur despite advanced technology. The U.S. Mint has been understandably reluctant to discuss the specifics of how such a dramatic error could happen in a facility equipped with multiple layers of quality control, including automated optical inspection systems, weight sensors, and human oversight. However, numismatic investigators have pieced together a likely scenario based on examination of the coins and knowledge of mint procedures. It appears that during a late-night shift change at the Philadelphia Mint in early 2022, a maintenance procedure